But one thing I wanted to kind of say in the way of an introduction for everybody here is I'm your peer. My whole career has been in mostly B2B marketing. So this is something that I'm very familiar with and I've spent most of my career really just doing. Now, what we're going to talk about today is that, obviously we want to generate demand. The dilemma that a lot of B2B marketers have, however, is that we all work out of the same playbook. That's the big secret, or I guess not so much of a secret, is that as B2B marketers, a lot of us are just kind of playing out of the same playbook. We use a lot of the same channels. The tactics are all very similar. And so in a situation like this, as a B2B marketer, we need to find ways to differentiate ourselves. And what we're going to talk about today is connected television, which I suspect is a buzzword that everybody here is familiar with. Maybe you've even run campaigns with connected television, depending on what it is that you're doing. But the case that I really want to make here today is that connected TV is a viable channel for B2B marketers, and we'll dig into it. And as Fred mentioned, ask questions. Feel free to just kind of interrupt me, and we could just make this a conversation. Totally fine with that. But we'll also take questions at the end as well. Now, what we'll talk about is, for starters, just how connected TV makes sense for B2B brands. Then we'll talk about the tools and technologies necessary to make connected TV efficient for B2B. And then we'll talk about tactically, what should B2B brands do in order to utilize connected TV as a good channel, and how it's also going to be elevating your brand too. The nice thing here is, as B2B marketers, for a lot of us, it's demand gen first, but there's still going to be a great element of brand awareness that's going to come with your campaign as well. TV has traditionally been off limits to B2B. One thing that I tell my team about TV advertising in B2B is I'm not a golf fan, but like the 2 times in my life that I've seen golf on TV, it's been like on a Sunday afternoon. And the advertising, it's the only time you'll ever see a commercial for Boeing or General Electric. And so the point there is that the target audience is not very reliable on linear television for a B2B marketer, or else you would see a lot more of it in your day-to-day sort of TV watching on linear. And so for that reason, among several others, cost being another one, measurability, of course, you're just not familiar with B2B advertising on broadcast television. And the consideration here, this is the kind of dilemma, is that TV is inherently unrivaled compared to all the other channels that we have available to us as marketers in terms of garnering attention. But as we just kind of talked about, it's inefficient, it's inherently inefficient. If you look at how measurement works for television advertising, and again, if you're looking at audience targeting, the same sort of thing you get with, like magazines or any other kind of legacy channel, you're really just kind of going for maximum overlap between your audience and the viewership of some sort of content. It's just inherently inefficient. As we talked about, B2B audiences are hard to find reliably on television. And finally, the measurement piece of it too. That's going to be a big topic for us this afternoon, or this morning, I should say. Now, just to kind of reclaim my credentials here as someone who's talking to you, I am a B2B marketer like you all. And I also understand the need for differentiated channels. I've done a ton of performance marketing in my career, and our search advertising is just optimized to death. And from a social media standpoint as well, using some really interesting technologies, we've managed to make social a really efficient channel for ourselves as well. But a lot of our really good competitors are doing well at that too. They're working out of the same playbook largely. And so we have that same sort of, we're in that same sort of situation that a lot of you are in that everybody's sort of doing the same thing. And so what connected TV does is it actually solves a lot of these common problems for B2B marketers. Now, here's a case study from us. You may or may not know our Chief Creative Officer. The number one question I get asked all the time is, does he really work for MNTN? The answer is yes. I'm on email threads with this guy all the time. He's actively involved. A lot of the notable advertising that you've seen from Ryan over the past couple of months, he is directly involved with all of that happening. In fact, he's taking sabbatical from acting right now just to focus on this. It's kind of crazy to say. But we actually did a test with Ryan. So like you all, or most of you, I imagine, we do ABM. ABM is a really important component of our own marketing efforts. And so we took our ABM list and we put it into our own platform. So first note about Mountain's platform is that we have matched audience capabilities, or CRM functionality, where you could bring your email addresses, upload it into the platform, and make that your target audience. And happy to say that the match rate on Mountain is neck and neck with LinkedIn, which is really valuable for B2B marketers to know, because typically our dilemma is that match rates only really look good for us on LinkedIn typically, and then taking those business emails, phone numbers onto other social platforms don't tend to work out as nicely for us. So good to know. But we did that. We recorded a couple of variations of an advertisement with Ryan, and we ran it on our platform. And what we did was we did prospecting and retargeting campaigns using this creative. And so what I want to do is show you the creative that we ran with Ryan. And so there's an A/B test. And so first I'll show you the A variation of the ad. And again, I should say this was targeted to our ABM list.
It's Ryan Reynolds. It's Ryan Reynolds, and if you're seeing this, you probably work in the marketing world. Now, I just wanted to let you know that my marketing firm, Maximum Effort, is merging with Mountain, which is one of the fastest growing companies in ad tech. They've built an amazing self-serve connected TV platform, which, not coincidentally, we use to upload this video. Now, if you're not in marketing, I apologize, you must be very confused. Visit mountain.com to schedule a demo. Unless you're not in marketing, which, again, massive apologies.
First version. Now let's look at the second one.
This is Mountain. This is Mountain. This is your brand on Mountain. Any questions? Yes, you probably have a ton. This is a pretty blind opening. Anyway, Mountain is one of the fastest growing connected TV platforms, and they just merged with Maximum Effort, the creative marketing company owned by this guy. No, this guy. That's why the mountain volcano metaphor kind of works. It's great tech, and it's great creative in one place. Visit mountain.com for more details. Don't worry, there's no lava.
So real campaign, we ran on the platform. And with the Mountain platform, you can test multiple creative to identify the one that performs best. This was kind of amusing because we had one creative that featured Ryan prominently, another one where he was just narrating it, and we had to break the news to Ryan of which one actually performed better. And I don't know, does anyone here know which one performed better? Yeah, I think I kind of I'm already implying what the results were, but it was actually this variation that performed better, and we're able to measure visit rate and conversion rate on our website to be able to assess the performance of an ad. Anyone who's done linear TV advertising before, that's kind of surreal to be able to measure the results of a television campaign in that sort of manner. I should also say there's a follow-up campaign you may or may not have seen where a real customer success manager at Mountain breaks the news to Ryan and actually won an award it was in the top 10 list from Ad Age of best celebrity ads of last year. So be sure to watch that if you're not already getting targeted from our advertising when you're watching TV ad. Moving on here, so measurability, as we've talked about before, it's really critical when it comes to TV advertising. Now, I want to be really transparent as a fellow B2B marketer. What does this channel look like for us as we run it? It's been kind of crazy to be in this situation where my employer also represents one of my most important advertising channels now too. And so the results recently for us has been about 23% share of traffic on our website. When we're looking at all of the acquisition sources that are coming in to our website, 23% of that traffic is coming by way of,
That's just New York.
Yeah, I think I know what that's about. 23% of our traffic is coming by way of Mountain campaigns. 16.5% share of website conversions are attributed to our campaigns as well. $6.72 cost per visit and a verified visit rate of 3.25%. This is really critical. And the fact that we can measure this, a TV channel, or a channel which is television, side by side with our other acquisition channels it's crazy. But it's become a really important channel. And there's been a couple of instances where we kind of pause the channel because we want to cycle out the creative and put something else on the platform. And during that window of time, we feel the difference just because we're now actually relying on this. And that's the really important thing. And part of the reality of a B2B marketer that I live just like you all too, which is every channel matters for us and every channel needs to deliver something for us continuously. We view Mountain as an always-on evergreen channel in the same way that we view paid search specifically. Now, CTV works when it's used in the right way. And just a quick sort of like, just talking about B2B marketing somewhat philosophically for a second, there's a difference between, sort of capturing existing demand and generating demand. And just the distinction that I want to make is that paid search is a great channel for capturing existing demand. I mean, that's inherently how it works, right? People are searching inside search engines and you're capturing that inbound interest because you have something relevant to them. However, connected television is great at generating new demand. So it just in the same manner that TV works, TV advertising works traditionally. But in this case, you can actually have the sort of ability to assess its performance as you would for other digital channels. Yes, question.
So we have a question from the virtual audience. Bob wanted to know, what metric do you use to define success in an A/B test like the one that you just went through?
Great. So his question was, what metric are we using to define success when we're comparing creative in an A/B test? It's really up to the advertiser. And so for us specifically, we were looking at visit rate. We wanted to use our advertising to drive traffic to our website. And so we were monitoring visit rate. But depending on what your objectives are, that could be conversion rate. It could just be, impressions served. And the other kind of consideration here too, for the more like sort of technical marketers here, is that a platform like Mountain integrates with Google Analytics. And so you can assess this performance inline inside Google Analytics. Yes?
Yeah, the first example you had,
Yeah.
that would be example disconnected TV advertising.
I'm so sorry?
That would be example of disconnected, not connected, but disconnected.
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand the question.
You have the two
Yeah.
ads,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
verbal,
Yeah.
and then you have video.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that still connected TV?
Yeah, both of them ran on connected TV. They both ran on the platform. We served both ads to the same target audience. And what we were determining was, by way of visits to the website, which one actually performed better. Yes.
And you may be covering this later on, but what did your funnel look like? So you were bringing people to the website, and then what happened? Were you putting them into nurturing campaigns? Were you retargeting them? What did the rest of your funnel look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. So with this campaign specifically, it was generating awareness, trying to generate inbound traffic to the website. It did a great job of that. And there was no landing pages involved in this sort of campaign, because as you're watching television, you got to sort of cross the chasm from the TV impression to a direct website visit. So people would visit the website. By visiting the website, just like any other channel you use, it was filling up our retargeting pools. So that set us up to be able to retarget these users elsewhere. One other sort of thing that I think is relevant to this question of like funnel and kind of customer journey is that with our platform, we have something called audience extension, which is basically a complementary set of display advertising to the TV creative, so that when that prospect sees the ad on television and then uses their device to sort of browse the web, they're going to see a complementary set of display ads that's consistent with the TV campaign that they saw. So it just creates this like full immersion for the prospect. But going back to the kind of the funnel, they would visit the website. Ideally, they would convert on that visit. They'd browse and they'd convert. And we'd be able to track those conversions that were originated by way of that campaign. If they didn't convert on that first session, though, filled up the retargeting pools, and they're able to be served with retargeting ads, not just on our platform, but since this platform is driving such a good volume of traffic, it really set us up for retargeting on other channels as well.
And that was all down to the CRM level?
Yeah, so there was an ABM campaign, so it originated with CRM data in terms of the targeting for the campaign. But in addition to that, we also run prospecting campaigns where we're identifying, in our case, marketing and advertising professionals, and also retargeting campaigns too. So we retarget our site visitors with television advertising. Yes.
So from Nicole, in the virtual audience, what costs are you using to calculate the cost/visit? The cost of the ad or the cost of the platform?
Yeah, it's the cost of the platform, the delivery of it. And so it's going to be that same sort of cost that you're looking at for any other sort of ad channel. For example, when you're looking at your paid search cost performance, it's going to be the cost involved in the delivery of the advertising. Great questions. Great questions. Now, moving on here, going back to that last point of CTV being a great demand generation channel. What's really important here is to understand the end user experience, the person who's sitting on the couch, in our case, business to business decision makers. First of all, the ads are unskippable. They're pre-roll advertising or mid-roll advertising on premium inventory on television. And they also serve on the largest screen of the house. The really important thing about that point that I want to kind of emphasize to this audience is the fact that we get so caught up in, as B2B marketers, in using a lot of the same channels, specifically LinkedIn, because we figure people are on the clock and that's the way that we can capture their attention. But you got to realize all of us are consumers of media. We have time where we sit down and we watch TV like normal people do. We use social platforms just like everybody else does as well. And so it's a good reminder to B2B marketers that you should branch out from the classic tried and true channels that a lot of B2B marketers use and use other ones. Right now, we're architecting our TikTok strategy, which sounds patently absurd on surface level for a B2B brand to be advertising on a channel like that. But assuming you could get good audience data into that platform, why not? If we know that our target audience is actually using that channel. And finally, making sure that you have some sort of mechanism for tracking good measurement related to television campaigns is just so critical. Because again, if you think of the alternative with linear television and how TV is measured in that way, it's just not the way performance marketers, which B2B marketers, to me, my bias of B2B marketers is that we tend to be a little bit more measurement driven and accountable with our budgets than our B2C counterparts, no offense. And so this definitely kind of works in the way that a B2B marketer would sort of expect it to. Now, the other aspect, the other thing that I relate to a lot of the B2B marketers here too is the fact that I have to make a sales team happy. And definitely using this channel has been useful for that. It's shortened our sales cycle. So often now the sales team, when they reach a new prospect, we've softened the ground for them. The prospect opens up, especially ABM prospects who are in these target campaigns. The prospect opens by saying, I've seen you guys. I see you guys when I watch TV. I see your ads all the time. And that really helps the sales organization when they're doing their outreach to be able to already have a prospect that's encountered us, not just encountered us, but in our case, in the very channel that this prospect is actually, the salesperson is actually selling for. And also it's great, as I was mentioning in the beginning, it's great for brand awareness as well, because the fact is that over the course of serving all of these impressions in service of our core digital marketing goals, we've just also raised the brand's awareness over time. And so, wrapping up here, a couple of key takeaways. For starters, as we talked about plenty, thanks to connected television, B2B brands, it's okay for B2B to be on television now. And I think, again, the idea there was that we really needed television to be measurable and highly, highly targeted. And now that we have that capability, I think it's a safe space for B2B marketers to actually play into it. It's, again, all the benefits of a digital channel. A lot of the questions that I get about connected television and how it works, I find myself just constantly telling people it's just how all other programmatic digital channels that you're used to work in terms of targeting, measurability, and so on, without any of that gray area that you're used to, or whatever your perception may be of inefficient linear TV advertising. Testing, measurement, and audience targeting ensures that budgets are well spent. You definitely need this peace of mind as an advertiser to know that you're targeting the best audience possible. Just a note on that, we talked about a couple of methods of audience targeting already. You can take your ABM list, upload that into the platform, use that as the basis for your entire audience targeting. Again, you could do prospecting campaigns. In our case, we have, excuse me, an integration with the Oracle Data Cloud. That's over 70,000 audience segments that are available for advertisers to target. Specifically calling that out for B2B, there's a lot of B2B audience segments available on the Oracle Data Cloud within our platform. People who are specifically decision makers of certain products, people who are in market for certain business related services. There's just tons of them in there available. And then finally, as we talked about before too, retargeting. We retarget the same way you retarget for other channels. We do that same thing, but on television. So when people visit our website, no matter from which channel, we'll be able to retarget them with TV ads. Yes.
This is from Brian online. So how do you estimate the return on ad spend success when revenue is mostly generated by an offline sales team and Salesforce the data source of truth for traffic tracking and matching the revenue?
Yeah, it's a great question. So a lot of our sort of return on ad spend measurement is inherently geared towards a lot of advertisers that have some sort of immediate conversion action that can take place on a website. So we have a whole B2C component to our platform and a huge customer base of B2C advertisers. And they certainly take advantage of those, of like a return on ad spend sort of measurement inline in the platform. But for B2B marketers, again, I'd say from a goal standpoint, what would probably be a little bit more important is you could certainly measure your return on ad spend at the end of the sales cycle. That's something that we certainly do ourselves. But in terms of metrics that are directly inside the platform that would be of use for B2B marketers as they're kind of assessing their performance, is your cost per acquisition, how is that sort of stacking up compared to other channels, and your visit rates. This is another really important metric, just specifically important for TV, because we want to be able to measure the ability of the TV ad to drive visitors directly to a website. So return on ad spend, it's an important metric, but it's likely, because of the point that you had mentioned, going to be something that you're going to be measuring at the end of the sales cycle. But there's still plenty of metrics inside the platform to gauge immediate success. A couple of other points, and then we'll wrap it up here. Actually, we could just kind of wrap it up here. I think this is all just kind of redundant to all the points that I made already. So any other questions that we may have about TV as an ad channel for B2B?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw a softball. Hopefully you can knock it.
Yeah. We didn't plan this, by the way.
Something like this. Like we advertise, right, on all channels, but TV is usually the more expensive one.
Yeah.
The production costs, stuff like that. What does a pilot look like?
Yeah. So we you may be wondering why like Ryan Reynolds is even in our orbit. We heard this from a lot of our customers a little over a year ago, which was specifically B2B customers, where they're not always kind of readily sitting on a bunch of creative that can be repurposed for television. And so the platform does what it does, and it's really successful at that. But we understood that people have this sort of situation where they need to procure creative, not just get it, but also refresh that creative on an ongoing basis. And so what we did was we acquired a couple of platforms. First was Ryan Reynolds' creative agency, Maximum Effort. But we also made, probably more interesting to this audience, a more recent acquisition of a company called QuickFrame. It's a really awesome marketplace that connects a really exclusive set of creators with people who need any sort of video deliverable. It's not just necessarily people who need advertising creative, but just any video deliverable. And so you could either work directly with a platform like QuickFrame to get your deliverable, not just for TV, but say for your other channels that you're working on. Or something that we announced and really kind of rationalized all this M&A activity for us is creative as a subscription. And so what we allow advertisers to do is, in exchange for an annual commitment of ad spend, what we'll do is we'll bundle in the cost and the production of creative on an ongoing basis. So now you can just allocate all of the budget that you've put towards this channel towards media spend. And what we'll do is we'll bundle in creative to be sort of refreshed for you, depending on whatever interval we kind of agree upon. But that's particularly valuable for, again, I think B2B advertisers, where your organizations aren't necessarily equipped to handle, working with creative agencies, doing production on an ongoing basis, managing that process, and because it could be really convoluted. And so having that kind of bundled into your plan with us specifically kind of works out pretty nicely. Yes.
So I can have a question around how the platform can help B2B to C model.
Yeah.
Because I think you touched upon a little bit, soften, conversation for the salesperson. I definitely can see that, but do you have some example you guys did to help with like B2B to C business?
Could you recap the question?
Yeah, absolutely. The question is related to B2B to C businesses and if there's any sort of use cases of that. There certainly are. We have a couple of very large advertisers who service both audiences on the business side and also on the consumer side. And for them, this is another instance where this is kind of, as a platform, indistinguishable from the other major performance marketing channels that you use. So, in the case of, say, search advertising, you can use that same account to reach any of the audiences that you're really looking to reach. And they also have the same flexibility, depending on whether you're trying to run a ABM campaign, retargeting campaign, whatever it is. We're sort of in that same boat. And so the advertisers that we have that are sort of in that boat they're just running multiple campaigns on the platform. In some instances, the campaigns are going to be, like on the B2B side, the campaigns are going to be targeting like a really tight ABM list of prospects that they've proactively identified. On the B2C side, that's where they really open things up. And the scope of this conversation today is B2B, but that's really kind of Mountain's kind of customer base at large is B2C advertisers, and so the ability to reach consumers is huge. And so those, the other kind of consideration on that side too is one thing that we're always looking for as advertisers is volume, and definitely on the consumer side, with all of the trends that everyone sort of experienced of users kind of cutting the cord and shifting to streaming television, the audience sizes are huge on the consumer side. So they'll likely run a really targeted ABM, CRM targeted campaign for the B2B component of their campaigns. And on the B2C side, man, sky's the limit. It's really large audiences, but still targeted. And the other consideration there is that it's always on. These are advertisers that turn on their campaigns and never turn them off. It's performance that they can feel, where again, if they shut off these campaigns, it's not working anymore. But platform has the ability to run multiple creative, and everyone's going to receive really targeted creative, and you can segment as much as you like. Yeah.
Do you have the ability to automate content? So for example, if I want to do A/B testing and I have two pieces of content and whichever similar to email, whichever I see that has a little bit, better kind of like response will stick, and then go with that, or is that something that you do manually?
Yeah. So absolutely. Question is, do you have the ability to kind of like shift to the winning creative in the case of like some sort of A/B test? Yeah, you have that capability of kind of letting the winner sort of be the campaign of choice or the creative of choice for a campaign. It's also a good opportunity to kind of mention. We also have a lot of beta programs too around our creative, and so to that point of kind of automation, some of the things that we're working on from like an R&D standpoint right now is, but it's in testing with some clients, is dynamic message insertion. So this is kind of something that you see on other ad channels where you could kind of leave a slot open within your creative to dynamically insert messaging based off of your audience segmentation. So that's something that could be of interest. Some other stuff that we have cooking in R&D is app install attribution. So if your objective as an advertiser, rather than getting someone to a website to convert on a form, is instead to get someone to download something, we have the ability to measure that. So you run your ad campaign encouraging people to install an application, and the measurement integrations that we have with a couple of mobile partners will measure how that campaign did towards actually getting people to install your app. And the one that's kind of mostly irrelevant for this audience, I think, is in-store visits. So also through an integration with a location partner, we have the ability to see how the TV campaign is working towards actually driving foot traffic to brick and mortar locations. So we're really busy on the R&D side to really kind of make this feel just like all of the other major performance marketing channels that you all may use. Any other questions? Yes.
Are there any interactive options?
Not at the moment, and that's more so. That's kind of a good question for the industry at large in terms of figuring out how that's going to be. Now, you see certain platforms, certain kind of siloed platforms that have that. Hulu has somewhat of kind of a level of interactivity to some of their ad units, but it's just tremendously limited right now. And again, it's non-standardized. So what Hulu is doing from an interactivity standpoint is different than any other sort of platform that may have some sort of interactive ad unit. Since Mountain's inventory spans across premium inventory providers, we just look for standardized ad units. Now, you can have your ads placed on Hulu. We have Hulu inventory available to us, but it's going to be that sort of standardized inventory to be able to kind of ensure that no matter the publisher, your ad experience is going to be the same. So thank you so much to Ascent. We're really happy with Ascent, and we're really happy partners, and really appreciate the time to everyone. Thank you so much.